Okay, well, welcome back. You know, this week has been a terrific week for me.
Has it been?
It has, because
Why?
my long-awaited next Wes Anderson film has come out.
Oh my goodness.
I love Wes Anderson.
Let's throw a parade, everyone.
I literally did that. Just one person, but it was a parade.
So Wes Anderson movie. What movie came out?
The Grand Budapest Hotel.
Oh.
Yeah. The Grand Budapest Hotel doesn't take place in Budapest, but it is about a hotel. It takes place in an imaginary country in a time in Europe that's somewhere before the war, and it is full of wonder, full of the Wes Anderson sets, full of characters, full of humor. But the story is about Gustav H., who's the concierge of the Grand Budapest Hotel, and he has a number of patrons that are quite luxurious, quite old, and quite special to him. One of these characters, these patrons, played by Tilda Swinton, although you wouldn't probably recognize her, ends up getting murdered and bequeaths to Gustav H. a masterpiece of a painting. Gustav H., with his lobby boy, his mentor and friend, Zero, end up on a fabulous goose chase throughout this scenery of Europe, taking place on trains, taking place on snow, taking place on toboggans, taking place in dark alleys. There's a dark current of soldiers coming into the back, this war approaching, and there's henchmen chasing them down who wants the fortune, and he has brass knuckles made of rings.
This sounds like a fascinating movie. I'm so glad I saw it too.
It's like you haven't. What did you think of this movie?
I love this movie, but I like
Good.
Wes Anderson a whole lot.
Me
so
too.
I mean, it's really hard for me to have a movie that
Yeah.
I dislike, I guess, from him.
Yeah.
Look, not every single one of it is a masterpiece, but I think that this one is definitely the most, or one of the most entertaining films I've seen from him.
Yeah.
It may not have the same pathos or the same
Sure.
emotional connection, I guess, I have with some of his other films, but this will be definitely one that I'm seeing on repeat a lot.
Oh, yeah.
Because I was laughing the entire time. Like,
Oh,
it was just so funny.
I think it's his funniest film.
I really wish Ray Fiennes would do more comedy. Like, he is so good at it. Like, it doesn't even look like he's trying. And it's just so good. I can talk about favorite lines later on if we want to. But for me, as funny as this is, and as madcap as this is essentially the epitome or the visual representation of the telephone game. Which means no one's going to understand this reference, but I'm going to make it anyways. Which is, you know, you start talking to like people around the circle, and eventually it becomes like Purple Monkey Dishwasher. This is the Purple Monkey Dishwasher of those films.
Okay. What do you mean by that?
In so much as this is a story within a story within a story.
How many prologues are there?
I'm pretty sure 3. I think there's 3 prologues before we actually get to the actual main story.
Which would be suicide for any other movie.
That's right.
But it works.
But it works because I think what this is showing us is that by the time we actually get to the main story, we are now in this complete fantasy world where we can really let our imaginations go a little bit, and we can like suspend our disbelief even a little bit more.
It's
because
so
we know,
far in the past that we can forgive any... You know, Wes Anderson films are always a little bit on the fairy book side.
Yeah.
Which, when they're in the current times, contemporary times, doesn't work quite well, or is hard for some people to get into. But in this case, it works beautifully because it is a realm of the imagination that's so far back in people's stories that it's like a giant pop-up book of old world Europe.
And using that book as a jumping off point is, I think that's what's really important about this motif of storytelling in the movie, which is that we all have our own stories, but in particular, as you get older, you wouldn't know this, being 12 years old, Daniel, but as you get older, you realize that there are things that you cling to, even tangentially, that you didn't even realize that you had connections to. So in this Budapest Hotel, you can see like the ghosts of old patrons and the I guess the shell of what it used to be.
Okay.
And if you live long enough, it's like
the hotel itself.
The hotel itself. And it's like, I remember when this used to be like the most popular place in town. Or I remember when there used to be a Blockbuster on this corner, and now it's an egg oasis. I don't even know what that store is, but it replaced my Blockbuster. But you know what I mean? Like, it's like you can slowly see things change over time. Just like our stories change over time as we get older. We kind of refine how we tell them, and we refine what our learns, I guess, were for them as well.
Some nostalgia.
Yeah,
basically.
kind of nostalgia.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, what I loved with the movie, I mean, Wes Anderson's sets are so impeccable all the time. The attention to detail, and we talked about how in this movie it works especially well because of the time setting. But I loved the characters, the humor on there. It's kind of as if Wes Anderson got all of Hollywood's best and brightest and most famous of different age groups, buttoned them up, mustached them up, and then just had them serve the movie, if it's even for 30 seconds. They just show up and they do it perfectly on there. The other thing I loved was the humor, particularly, and this is funny coming from me, the swearing in the movie.
Yeah, swears like a sailor.
Yeah, swearing. Usually it's thrown into speech or it's thrown into movies just as filler. But in Wes Anderson films, it's put there for a reason, and it always is hilarious. Especially when Ray Fiennes' character will have some elegant speech that he's rambling off and puncture it with a swear word at the end.
Yeah,
It is hilarious on there, and I can't wait to watch it again.
Yeah, like I said, it's probably going to be one that I'm going to be revisiting a whole lot. As soon as it comes on video, like buying it and just rewatching it and rewatching it. Grant and I, in the podcast version of these videos,
Grant.
No, he's not Grant. We talk a lot about that rewatchability quotient for movies, and this is one of those movies I would say is like very high in rewatchability.
Right, and for you, the storytelling element had to play on there.
Yes.
For me, the thing that kind of kept me interested is the question: is this movie ultimately a cynical movie? And what I mean by that is you have this undercurrent of darkness. There's some very dark scenes in this film that are very uncharacteristic, that work, that really jar the audience and linger in the audience's mind.
Yeah, definitely like way more, I don't know, like brutal and violent than a lot of other Wes Anderson films. At least I noticed that.
Into it. And that's part of it is the historical setting, that this is about to be taken over by Nazis, this whole land. And then the other thing is that the prologue lets you know that the hotel will crumble. That Europe essentially isn't as grand as it used to be on there. And does that then lend the movie a sense of cynicism, in the sense that this world, as beautiful as it is, you might as well enjoy it because eventually we're all going to die?
I think that ties into my theme better because it's all about that nostalgia, and it's especially interesting coming from an American director looking at old Europe and being like, oh, remember how great it used to be? I'll never be able to know what that's like. So here's a movie about when it was grand and opulent and all those other things.
You're saying it's nostalgic rather than a sense of let's just drink and be merry for tomorrow we die?
Yeah.
Okay.
That type of thing,
okay.
yes.
See, for me, I don't think it's cynical, although I think that sense of reality, the darkness of reality, does give it more weight to the movie and more staying power, rewatchability, if you like, on there. It just gives moral choices that take place on here more weight to them. Ultimately, I think in a Wes Anderson film, there's so much beauty in the darkness, even in the tragedy of people. He just finds the joy in characters, the joy in just the world around him. And if anybody says that the upcoming world after all these wars and socialism, et cetera, is going to be dark, well, I'll just say pop in a Wes Anderson film and see how much beauty and joy there still is in that world.
Watch the world burn as it is in like beautiful Technicolor.
Never does that.
Well, I mean, while the world burns, we can watch Wes Anderson movies.
Okay.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Okay, good.
Look how squeaky my chair is. It's amazing. Hey, we have a lot of social media links going to pop up on the screen here so that you can go and follow
If you liked
us.
Our thoughts, you can read more of our thoughts.
Even if you didn't like our thoughts, go follow us anyways.
Yeah, and read what we have to say.
We both wrote reviews about this. Oh, right. Yes. I'm hilarious. And we'll probably be back next week talking about a book.
Or another movie.
Who reads anymore?
Who watches anymore?